Hello friends, welcome to the part 2nd of the lecture on biodiversity at global, national and local level. In part 1st, we discussed the biodiversity, its importance and biodiversity at global level. In today's lecture, our objectives will be to be familiar with the perspective of Indian biodiversity, to study biodiversity at local level, to evaluate various threat perceptions to the biodiversity and to understand the conservatory measures for the biodiversity. We will now study biodiversity at national level. India is known for its rich heritage of biodiversity. It is one of the 17 mega biodiversity countries of the world and one of the 4 in Asia. With only 2.4% of the world's area, India accounts for 78% of the world's recorded plant and animal species. The country is divided into 12 biogeographic regions. Besides, India is recognized as one of the 8 Wavlovian centers of origin and diversity of crop plants, having more than 300 wild ancestors and close relatives of cultivated plants which are still evolving under natural conditions. India ranks among the top 10 species-rich nations and shows high endemism. The country is also one of the 12 primary centers of origin of cultivated plants and domesticated animals. About 4,900 species of flowering plants are endemic to the country. It is estimated that 62% of the known amphibian species are endemic to India. Approximately 65% of the total geographical area has been surveyed so far. Based on this, over 46,000 species of plants, 81,000 species of animals have been described by the Botanical Survey of India established in 1890 and Zoological Survey of India established in 1916 respectively. According to the 1994 IUCN assessment, India contained 172 or 2.9% of IUCN designated threatened species. These include the Asiatic Lion, the Bengal Tiger and the Indian white-rumped vulture. It is estimated that 18% of plants are endemic to the country and found nowhere else in the world. High endemism has also been recorded for various groups of insects, marine worms, centipedes, mayflies and freshwater sponges. Apart from the high biodiversity of Indian wild plants and animals, there is also a great diversity of cultivated crops and breeds of domestic livestock. The traditional cultivars included 30,000 to 50,000 varieties of rice and a number of cereals, vegetables and fruit. India completely houses 2 of the 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world, that's the Eastern Himalaya and Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. The third, that's Indo-Burma, lies partially within the Indian northeast region. There is a huge species diversity in all the 3 hotspots, with several of the species being endemic to their native ranges in India. Now, these hotspots include the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, the Eastern Himalaya and the Indo-Burma. The Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the 8 hottest hotspots of the biological diversity in the world. About 1,500 endemic species of dicotyledonous plants are reported from the Western Ghats. Nearly 235 species of endemic flowering plants are considered endangered. As regards the fauna, as many as 315 species of vertebrates belonging to 22 genera are endemic. These include 12 species of mammals, 13 species of birds, 89 species of reptiles, 87 species of amphibians, and 104 species of fish. There occur 117 species of amphibians in the region, of which 89 species, that is 76%, are endemic. Of the 165 species of reptiles found in Western Ghats, 88 species are endemic. Many of the endemics and other species are listed as threatened and include lion-tailed macaque, Nilgiri langur, Nilgiri thar, Beddoes toad, flying squirrel, and Malabar grey hornbill. The Eastern Himalaya. The Eastern Himalayan hotspot has nearly 163 globally threatened species, including the one-horned rhinoceros, the wild Asian water buffalo, and in all 45 mammals, 50 birds, 17 reptiles, 12 amphibians, 3 invertebrate and 36 plant species. In the whole of the Himalayas, there are an estimated 9,000 plant species, with 3,500 of them being endemic. At least 55 flowering plants endemic to this area are recognized as rare. For example, the pitcher plant. Species of several families of monocotyledons, Orchidaceae, Gingiberaceae, and Ericaceae abound in the area. The area is also rich in wild relatives of plants of economic significance, for example, rice, banana, citrus, ginger, chili, jute, and sugarcane. The region is regarded as the center of origin and diversification of 5 palms of commercial importance, namely coconut, areca nut, palmyra palm, sugar palm, and wild date palm. The taxol plant, Taxus valenciana, is sparsely distributed in the region and has come under red data category due to its overexploitation for extraction of a drug effectively used against cancer. As regards faunal diversity, 63% of the genera of land mammals in India are known from this area. During the last 4 decades, 2 new mammals have been discovered from the region, that's the golden langur from Assam Bhutan region and Namdapa flying squirrel from Arunachal Pradesh, indicating the species richness of the region. The area is also a rich center of avian diversity. More than 60% of the Indian birds are recorded in the northeast. A few threatened endemic bird species include the Himalayan quail, cheer peasant, western tragopan. Indo-Burma. The hotspot encompasses 33 terrestrial ecoregions. In recent times, 6 species of large mammals have been discovered here. That is the large antlered macaque, the Annamite macaque, the grey shanked doves, the Annamite striped rabbit, the leaf deer, and the sayola. This region is home to several primate species such as monkeys, langurs, and gibbons, with populations numbering only in the hundreds. It also houses 520 reptile species, including 1/5 of the world's freshwater turtle species. Almost 1,300 bird species exist in this region, including the threatened white-eared night heron, the grey-crowned croziers, and the orange-necked partridge. It is estimated that there are about 13,500 plant species in this hotspot, with over half of them endemic. Ginger, for example, is native to this region. We will now study biodiversity at local level. Jammu and Kashmir state, situated in the north of the Indian subcontinent and forming the northwestern extremity of the Himalayan mountain range, is spread over an area of 2,22,236 square kilometers. Jammu and Kashmir comprises of 3 different geographical cum agroclimatic territories of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh part of Himalaya. The 3 different geographical cum agroclimatic territories also harbor a unique wildlife flora. Kashmir has the unique distinction of having the prestigious hangul, which is found nowhere else in the world, while Ladakh is famous for its Tibetan antelope or chiru. Some important endemic plants are Berberis kashmiriana, Delphinium kashmirianum, Legotis kashmiriana, etc. Ladakh's ecosystem, lying at the confluence of 3 zoogeographic zones, is fascinating and uniquely varied. A dozen important mammals and over 100 species of birds make their home in this rugged terrain, most of them, though endangered, are rare. The wild yak is native only to this area. Other animals include the ibex, baral, mouse hare, etc. The rare mammals of the region include the Kashmir stag or hangul, the musk deer, Tibetan antelope or chiru, the Tibetan gazelle, the siro, the markhor, the wild yak, the Tibetan wild ass, the snow leopard and the brown bear. Some of the rare and threatened birds found in the area include exotic species like the Himalayan golden eagle, the beard vulture, the monal peasant, the western tragopan, the black-necked crane, the Himalayan snowcock and the bar-headed goose. The most common water birds which visit the state during winter months are common teal, pintail, red crested pochard, grey lag goose, widgeon, garganey, coot, etc. Now, what threatens biodiversity? Threats to biodiversity are numerous and are mainly result of unsustainable human activities. Some of these are habitat loss and degradation, that's conversion of rich biodiversity site for human settlement and industrial development and destruction of coastal areas, deforestation and overgrazing, introduction of invasive alien species, overexploitation of the resources for commercial gain, natural calamities like floods, high wind velocities, earthquakes, etc. Possible global climate change like depletion of ozone layer, global warming, etc. Poaching and hunting for flesh, fur, skin, horn, nail and recreation. Forest fires including anthropogenic causes. Environmental pollution and release of toxic substances. Soil erosion and loss of soil nutrients. Population pressure and unequal distribution of the resources. Agricultural expansion, spreading urbanization and establishment of industries, loss of traditional knowledge and filling up of wetlands. The current rate of species extinction is many times higher than the background rate which has prevailed over long periods of geological time. With the current pace of biodiversity loss, we are witnessing the greatest extinction crisis since dinosaurs disappeared from our planet about 65 million years ago. Not only are these extinctions irreversible, but they also pose a serious threat to our health and well-being. Need for conservation of biodiversity. Given the importance of biodiversity to humankind, the current pace of extinctions is a serious environmental problem and demands immediate conservation action. For this, we need to integrate the conservation priorities in our models of economic development, what is commonly known as sustainable development. Conservation of biodiversity states the planning and management of biological resources in a way so as to secure their wide use and continuous supply, maintaining their quality, value and diversity. International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources and World Wildlife Fund are among the leading international organizations concerned with biodiversity conservation. Biodiversity at all its levels, that is genetic, species and as intact ecosystems, can be best preserved in situ by setting aside an adequate representation of wilderness as protected areas. These should consist of a network of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries with each distinctive ecosystem included in the network. Such a network would preserve the total diversity of life of a region. However, species cannot be protected individually as they are all interdependent on each other. Thus, the whole ecosystem must be protected. Another way of conserving biodiversity is by ex situ conservation, in which plants and animals are conserved by preserving or protecting them away from their natural habitat. This could be in zoological parks and botanical gardens or through the forestry institutions and agricultural research centers. But natural resources are declining with a faster pace, which is a big concern for the government as well as to the general public. We as humans are reeling under great threat, that is losing precious organisms. Ecologists believe that diversity of organisms is shifting towards poleward direction due to global warming, which will change whole pattern of biodiversity. Biological resources are being used indigenously for meager interests and their conservational threat is hardly taken into consideration. The argument for conservation of biodiversity often emphasizes the need to facilitate continued evolution. As humans are and were part of nature, they benefited from the evolutionary process. Now coming to the conclusion, despite great debates and discussions about biodiversity loss in last decade at different forums, we have not been able to restore the original status of biodiversity. We need to change our approach before we reach to that situation where human efforts are useless. Practical approach will be best possible way to address this problem. By practical approach, we mean those efforts which are carried out at grassroots level for the restoration of biodiversity. Involvement of general public will not only make the things easy but will have long-lasting impact on the biodiversity. Integrative approach is the best way to restore the original status of biodiversity. This approach will involve everyone in the conservation of biodiversity. Incorporation of various agencies will not only help to restore the original status of biodiversity, but will also encourage the concept of sustainable management of biological resources. We need to develop biodiversity-friendly environment at community level. The key to a successful biodiversity-friendly environment at grassroots level is allowing space for nature. Following are the important measures by which we can accomplish the holistic approach. Ecosystem approach is needed to follow where we need integration across different scales. As biodiversity loss is dependent on multiple factors, so we need to look into every aspect. regional and global factors needs to be studied to see whether there is link between global biodiversity losses with the regional biodiversity loss. Multiple stakeholders should come forward voluntarily and put their efforts for restoration of original states of biodiversity. So, where are we now? We are at crossroads where we have two options available. One, to keep watching the destruction of biodiversity which is taking place at faster pace, and second, to share hands with those who want to protect biological species from being stamped out. Later option will also help in sustainable management of biological resources in the world, which is engulfed with multiple problems. With this, we come to the end of the part 2 of biodiversity at global, national and local level. Hope you have understood it. Thank you.